What would it be like to live on a planet with rising temperatures, more aggressive storm systems developing, changing tides, and other complications? I would say it would be pretty dang hard to live a normal life. But when I think about it, this is the life we are living. The reality is, global warming and climate change are big deals. And of course, not many people realize that because I'd rather watch a cheetah over a snail. Or, in other words, they don't focus on something that is progressing slowly, whether there are so many other things that are more attention grabbing out in the world. Well, even though it's progressing slowly, it's a serious problem, which is why I'll be talking about climate change, what climate change is, what has caused it, what the effects are, what and how animals have been impacted, why it matters, what may happen in the future, and what we can do to stop or slow the outcome. What is climate change? Climate change is the gradual change in the climate over the period of a few decades. The climate of an area is often compared to the weather and the temperature, but there is a difference. The climate is the average weather over the course of many years. While the weather could go from rainy and 46 degrees Fahrenheit to sunny and 75 degrees in a singular day, the climate could take numerous decades, maybe even millions of years to change. A leading factor to climate change is CO2, or carbon dioxide, which has been rising quite significantly in the last decade, which is well represented by a graph called the Keeling curve, which is named after a professor from Scripps Institution of Oceanography, Dr. Charles David Keeling, who was also the first person to notice the rising CO2, or carbon dioxide, levels of Earth. The climate has been changing for quite a while, yet so many people cease to see the problem that is being produced by the outcome of our irrational decisions. Now, you may be hearing carbon dioxide quite a lot and how horrible it is to impact climate change and global warming. But the truth is, carbon dioxide isn't really that bad. Well, it is, but it also isn't in a way. Earth has a little barrier of carbon dioxide to retain some of the heat so we don't freeze to death, but it also slightly reduces the electromagnetic waves, or otherly known as sunlight, from the sun so we don't get burnt to a crisp. Basically, it keeps Earth the Goldilocks that we need to survive. Because it keeps enough heat inside so we stay warm, but not enough to overheat us. Well, now there's an abundance of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and it is keeping too much heat in the atmosphere, causing climate change and global warming. Who and what have caused it? The past couple of hundred years, humans have been burning fossil fuels for power, emitting way more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. The extra carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was then keeping more and more of the heat that would usually escape, which is causing the Earth to warm up, or otherly known as the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is also causing a phenomenon known as global warming. People in the past had been riding around in their new, flashy, fancy automobiles, but what they didn't know was their new, precious automobiles were contributing to global warming. Many coal-fueled power plants and other fossil-fueled power plants pollute the atmosphere with ash, exhaust, carbon dioxide, etc. The Earth has been naturally warming for a very long time, but it has increased in the last 100 years because of the fossil fuels are being burnt for power. That has caused a huge jump in the carbon dioxide levels and the air quality and temperature on Earth. A graph made at NASA shows the increase of carbon dioxide. A surprising contributor to climate change are cattle ranches and animals. You may not know it, but the increase of animals being farmed for food is also increasing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Gases released by the animals travel into the atmosphere and increase the CO2 levels. The agricultural technology needed also contributes to that, as do many things, which is why the CO2 levels have increased so much, as you can see on the graph. What are the effects of climate change? Global warming is a leading cause of climate change, which is leading to many negative effects. Obviously, you can probably tell what the issue is by the name. The globe is warming, because of the greenhouse effect, pollution, and other causes. The climate changes naturally, but not to the extent that it does today. Now, I know that being dramatic is Kennedy's sort of deal, but I'm stealing it for just a moment. Climate change is a big deal, and it could change the world for the worse in more ways than one. The temperatures could rise quite significantly, the sea levels are rising, the harshness of storms may even increase. Now, these seem like pretty big deals, and they are all effects of climate change and global warming. What animals have been impacted? Polar bears are being negatively impacted by climate change and global warming. When the polar bears usually go hunt for food, they use the icebergs to go and look for seals, and when it's ready, they go and pounce and then they get their meal. However, due to the globe warming and climate changing, the ice has melted, leaving the polar bears to scavenge for food on the shore, which has way less nutrients and is way less healthy for them. Animals have also been impacted because of the water temperature rising. Some select sea animals can only survive in certain temperature waters, and when the water temperature is rising, those animals aren't doing too hot. Pun intended, because they are in fact getting quite hot and overheated, potentially leading to their death. Other Arctic animals are also being hit quite hard by global warming and climate change because of the amount of water flooding and the ice melting. Coral reefs are also being impacted, being bleached because of the change in climate, and may even start to die off. Well, why does it matter? Could it really change the world? Well, some people would probably think, the temperature's only risen like 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not that bad. But that's where they're wrong. The amount of temperature change is quite significant. Our environment is used to the average temperature, but when that starts to rise, let's just leave it at that. Actually, no, let's not, because so many people cease to see how big of a problem climate change is, and global warming is, because clearly it is. How would you feel if your favorite adorable animals went extinct because of global warming and climate change? How would you feel if your dream to swim on a coral reef was cut short due to climate change killing them off? Because of us, the animals and life on Earth are suffering. What may happen in the future? Over the past 100 years or so, we've been emitting carbon dioxide and other harsh gases into our atmosphere. And because of that, the climate has been warming about 10 times faster than usual. The overall temperature has also risen to a total of approximately 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than normal. And scientists have estimated that the temperature could possibly change up to 8.6 degrees by 2100. That data goes to show that the climate isn't increasing at a steady rate, just like we saw on the Keeling curve. The climate is increasingly going up and up exponentially, or at a curve, gradually changing more and more as the years go on, maybe even changing 10 or 15 degrees each year in the next millennia or so because of our decisions. If we don't stop polluting and causing the atmosphere to be bombarded with carbon dioxide, this may be our future, a hotter, miserable planet because of the things that people did and didn't do. How can we stop or slow the outcome? What can you do? Because of gases in the greenhouse effect, when the heat gets trapped in the atmosphere and heats up Earth like a greenhouse, the world is in change. So many people see this as a huge problem and they don't think anything of it, because how can one person solve the world's number one biggest problem? Well, they're not right, but they're not wrong either, because not one single person is going to solve the issue of global warming and climate change. We all have to contribute. And I don't mean you have to do some huge thing like plant 1 million trees or something. I mean small actions and small decisions that can help us in the long run. Like turning off the lights, biking or walking somewhere that you would usually ride a car to, or some little bit bigger things as well, like switching to a more efficient car and more energy efficient appliances. Go for a walk and pick up trash along the way. Even just switching energy sources, utilizing our natural resources to get the energy we need, instead of burning tons and tons of fossil fuels, which are causing the atmosphere to be filled with carbon dioxide and pollution. Well, what happens next? Will the world turn into a flaming ball of heat? Will there be another ice age? Would the world flood? Well, sorry to say, but the movie makers in Hollywood have got it wrong. Sort of. All these movies you see about global chaos, giant storms, and temperatures dropping 10 degrees per second are made to entertain you, not give you factual information on the desired topic. In this presentation, I've informed you about climate change and what it is, what has caused it, what the effects are, what and how animals have been impacted, why it matters, what may happen in the future, and what we can do to stop or slow the outcome. And I sure hope you trust me as a reliable source, because climate change could and may really change the world.